to want to take up a career in something outdoors. It ended up being agriculture, and I got my degree at UH Hilo and started in the workforce in USDA Ag Research Service in Hilo, and then moved to HCEOC, which is the equal to MEO, as their ag coordinator. And it progressed from there, went to CTAR, was the extension agent for the new farmer program for homesteaders for 17 years. And then I moved to Monsanto for 9 years. And most of my time there was in the conservation department. And then I was with Molokai Land Trust in conservation in executive management for a year. And then I was able to, then they cut the program. It happened during COVID. For 18 months, I was unemployed. Then I worked down at Kalapapa for about 10 months, and I landed here. And all through the years, I've been a part-time lecturer with UH Maui College for their biology, Hawaiian field biology, and their undergraduate ag courses. On the spare time when we had throughout the years while I was in my career, I've had small businesses in agriculture. I did landscaping, I did retail potted plants, and with our kids, we also had a herd of swine. My husband is born and raised farming, one of the small original farmers on Molokai when his parents were alive. And now one of his brothers out of 8 of them farm. And we want to go back on to our homestead and farm one day, but we're holding full-time jobs. But I enjoy working with people. My strengths are in, I have a lot to bring to the table. I have agroforestry experience, crop production, native plants, sustainable ag, diversified agriculture. And I just got my master's 2 years ago from Washington State University. And I have my heavy extension background helps me to be able to communicate with people and connect them with resources. So I'm really excited to work with Maui County on a bigger level of more farmers. And I have a great person to work with, and I'm glad. And thank you for allowing us to be here to learn from you. Go ahead, Wes.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the strategic plan that you folks put together. In many ways, help set the structure for this current Department of Agriculture. My own background, I have family from Kula, actually, and then that's the Leong side, and then from Kohala on the Big Island. I'm from Kamuki. My parents from Kalihi and Kamuki on Oahu. I'm a Punahou graduate, so please don't hold that against me. Graduate from University of Washington. And my agriculture interest actually started during the summers back in college. There was a lo'i that we discovered in the process of helping a friend in his backyard. And from there, it developed into learning about all kinds of alvai and lo'i and taro varieties and canoe crops. But my parents weren't excited about agriculture as I was. So instead of doing that, I did what my daddy did, which is go into insurance. And I struggled with that for over 10 years. But if I hadn't done that, I would not have found federal crop insurance, which led me to work for a company out of Texas, who has an office over here called AgriLogic Crop Insurance Services. So from there, I learned all about risk management and did things where I was on the Big Island when Hurricane Iselle struck in 2014. And then also when Fissure 8 and Kilauea volcano covered a lot of land in Puna back in 2018. So from there, I did some legislative work, Ways and Means Committee under Senator Donovan De La Cruz. And from there, transitioned to work for the Department of Agriculture, doing some economic development specialist projects. And then went and worked for a fish company for about 3 years, got HACCP certified, had all kinds of people coming around auditing us, inspecting us. Very painful, but very educational experience. And then most recently, I was the program manager for the Hawaii Produce Safety Program, doing FSMA education. Some of you may have actually been at workshops with us. And I was actually doing that when this opportunity came along. And so looking forward to helping farmers understand those different programs that we have to know about in terms of food safety. Also have done a lot of things in terms of policy work and understanding different types of permitting and things like that. So I think they brought me in to push paper, and look forward to doing research and trying to bring solutions to a lot of the challenges we all face together, and look forward to meeting you individually in person down the line. Do you have any questions for us? We do have some questions for you, but do you have any questions for us?
Go ahead, Bobby.
Can you tell us where you live?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm at down the street from the office at, I think it's called Sand Hills. Down across of the intersection of Ko'ohu. I'm across the street over there.
And I'm on Kalavi Street, not too far from Vincent Mina's farm, greenhouse.
Okay,
So
that's
a-
great. We heard that you were commuting from off island all the time, so it's nice to know that you're here.
I commute, but if the farmers need me, I stay on the weekends if they need me. I commute because I have 35 acres that I need to also tend to.
Okay, thank you.
Do you commute from Molokai, Holly?
Yeah, Mondays and Fridays if Friday evenings, and then I come back.
So you are in Maui County then?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. I'm here the 5 days, and next week I'll be here including Saturday too.
No, I think that's great that you're on Molokai too. They definitely need they need representation there, so I think it's wonderful.
I will be going to Lanai also end of the month. So we'll talk more with Gabe on that later.
Great. I look forward to seeing you guys in person.
Do we have any Molokai people on the call today?
I think just one right now, and that's myself, Jamie Ronzello. I work for Sustainable Molokai and also have a small farm here on island.
Amy.
And I've worked with Kali before and was very ecstatic to see, actually, and Weston. So I'm familiar with both of their work. So I'm glad to see that they're both here with us today.
So Callie, you have your appointment meeting on the 16th as well? Is that correct?
It's the 30th.
Okay, the 30th.
Yeah, I got my notification yesterday.
Okay, I was told the 16th, so I'm glad that it's the 30th. So then we'll have two different dates for meetings. Then that'll be the legislation on the 16th and then your appointment hearing on the 30th.
I wish it was next week because now my stomach will be in knots for another month.
Okay, well, if nobody has any questions for them, do you guys want to questions?
Okay. Yeah, in terms of reading the top 3 areas of need and other comments in the need survey, it was actually really eye-opening and affirming in many ways. I know that some things we're supposed to do is take themes and define more specific actions on what we can actually try and implement to help the growers here. So I just wanted to try and throw out a couple of questions and maybe we'll get some more specificity or maybe not, but regenerative practices. When we think about that topic and an actual action, I think of regenerative practices as, improving soil, but also like sustainability, like educating kids to go into farming. That's kind of regeneration, the water and the water quality. But if I throw the question, what does regenerative practices mean to you? What are some specific answers and actions you might propose to us?
I know that one of the big one was composting and soil regeneration for regenerative practices. We all know how important topsoil is, you know, for water filtration, for nutrients for plants, for minimizing erosion, all of those things, and then also minimizing our waste. So I think one of the largest topics for regenerative practices was soil regeneration and composting. Does anybody else want to weigh in?
I was just going to add maybe, so I know you mentioned education and youth, and so educational programs around those areas are always really welcomed as well. I'm sure Jerry, yeah, it's like Jerry probably has something he wants to add.
Yeah, hopefully you can all hear me. I'm sitting here baking in the parking lot of the Mahalo Aleworks. I pick up their spent brewer's grains and use it for cattle feed. And if there's excess, it goes into compost. But the question about regenerative agriculture, the term really refers to regenerating what we destroy through normal agricultural practices, which is predominantly we are reducing the organic matter content within the soil. And when we reduce that through tillage and things like that, you reduce the ability of the soil to resist erosion, to hold cations for nutrients. It requires greater fertilizer to get the same yields. So really, when you open up a field for agriculture, one of the first things you want to have on your radar screen is regenerating what gets destroyed by that process. So a lot of that is whether it's cover crops. Compost is a huge thing that you can add because you're adding back life and organic matter. And we do have the potential to do that at a very grand scale relative to our
You're breaking up a little
farmers. You
bit.
know, we're production. Yeah, okay, sorry. I'll leave it right there then.
Do you want to just maybe rewind like 30 seconds of what you were saying? Sorry, if you can remember it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm on a farm at some point. So they could see what we do for compost and the impacts that it has, because we really think of ourselves as a regenerative farm. We're rebuilding the soil after harvest, and that's something we do every day and maintain soil fertility and food quality.
I think it's also important to mention as we're looking at different industries and things to expand on and things to really support, that we are mindful of how they affect the ecosystems, so that we can ensure that we're allowing for sustainable yields and things like that, that allow for regeneration and allow for a sustainable continuation of the cycle, because we're not depleting it too fast too. So like water and resources of that nature as well.
And I think I could just possibly add, I mean, you know, the new buzz is climate change, right? So all of the conversations around climate change and how really agricultural practices can really either increase or mitigate those. So kind of looking at that piece too, I think is really critical to bring up right now as well, that connection.
We've actually been asked to look at a couple of possible.
We had
compost. Oh, go ahead, Jerry.
Oh, it's just a short thought to keep in your mind as you move forward. We had a famous coffee, I'm with the Maui Coffee Association, we grow coffee. We had a famous coffee maven visiting here. And manage for optimum production, not maximum production. And that's basically what you do, production, to balance all the things that Jamie and Jennifer were talking about, rather than going for maximum production, which is more like mining the soil to feed ourselves now.
We were just, I know Maria Holmes of the Maui Coffee Roasting. She invited us to their coffee association meeting. So we'll be going there too, if that's the same organization you're talking about.
Yeah, it is. We look forward to seeing you.
Some of the things that I know that I noticed that was popping up often in the top 3 were education and experiential learning, marketing and support services. So in regards to education, are the farmers involved in doing networking with other farmers, or like doing cohorts or farm tours? Have you done any of those to meet other farmers to learn from each other?
I think there are quite a few farmers that participate in like the cohorts to teach oncoming farmers. And I think there is a lot of continuing education from the farmers. But I don't know how much of it is directly with each other. I think there is some of that. And I think that there's also like, you know, different people focusing on different areas. So I think there's a lot of it going on. But I don't know how like they track it.
Would you find that beneficial if something like that was organized to for farmers to learn from other farmers, or for farmers to learn to network with each other by, you know, building their network and resolving issues together and sharing concerns with each other to build that particular industry?
Yeah, I think that's incredibly important. I think we would all agree that that's super important. It's finding the time and making sure that that is not cutting into work time for a lot of the farmers and ranchers. So finding a way to make it viable for them to participate without having to spend hours in different meetings would be probably really beneficial. Go ahead, Bobby.
I just took Wes's produce safety class. Hello, Wes.
Hey, Bobby. Okay, thanks for reminding.
And it was a 9-hour class, and I didn't originally think that I would take this class, but I think it must have been your organization that was reaching out to us, and they kept offering class to us. And that actually worked for me, because we're not able to just drop everything and attend a class. And there was sort of the approach of repeatedly offering educational opportunity to us. And eventually it came at a time when I was able to participate and able to find it helpful. And if you haven't taken that class, I did find it worthwhile. So I just think reaching out to farmers and offering education continuously, because we don't always have time to stop and take a class. And that was very helpful to me. I just wanted to mention that.
Bobby, for that. Yeah, it was over 3 days, about 3 hours a day. That's intimidating to be offered that much time in your life to talk about food safety, produce safety. But thank you for finding value in it. And
It was
hopefully,
in the evening too, so I could do it. I mean, it wasn't during the day, so it was started like at 4 o'clock, and so I was able to figure out how to make that happen.
we'll continue to hopefully offer that class and connect with CTAR. But I just want to find out if there's other topics of interest that you would like us to help organize, extending more education opportunities that people will really feel valuable. Yeah, if you have ideas, please email us. We can put our contact information in the chat.
And sir, just to get a little bit of clarification, you're not talking about like someone who might be interested in agriculture, like just dipping their feet in the water, but you're talking about like established farmers and how they can network with one another and learn from one another versus like beginning farmer rancher development programs, right?
Yeah, so when I was in extension, I coordinated a lot of like farm tours and networking with producers. And sometimes it stemmed from producers wanting to investigate a certain something, like value added, and we would get those together and we would, host them and take them somewhere. And then they could connect with that agency or the farmers and start dialoguing and creating their own network. And then they can see, because through my years of working with people, especially in extension, a lot of them just wanna tell me, show me. I don't want to read anything. I don't have time. So it stems from that and seeing and doing. So yes, it'll be for producers.
I was just a quick follow-up of that. And I mean, there's a lot of different models of that, but I do know, and I don't know, maybe Jerry is part of it, but the Hawaii Farmers Union United, they have a really active chapter on Maui, and a pretty good, just now active chapter on Molokai. And it might be just something in terms of what you're talking about, and that they're really involved with like farmer networking. So just as a resource, that might be a really good connect. I don't know.
I talked to Fina.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I visited her.
Okay. Right on. That's spot on. Okay.
Yeah, and I know here they've got like foraging classes, they've got different growing classes, they have like the HFUU FAM program, they have Go Farm at UHMC, and then they have the Maui Farmers Network too. But those are more for training new farmers.
We'll actually be meeting with Janelle Yamamoto of Go Farm in the near future, I believe on the 22nd, to talk about how they might modify their Maui program to something more of a business incubator, as opposed to more just classroom, just a semester of class. Do something where there's more multi-year hands-on training with growing production and growing education. So that'll be exciting. I think that's something that people will enjoy learning more about.
I'm interested in knowing if any of the Maui high schools have an ag program, and if Lanai High has an ag program, because Molokai's ag program has been scaled back a lot since my dad went to school in the 60s. They used to, like, in the morning before school, they used to work on the farm, and after school, weekends. Now it's just a half-time staff who teaches one or two periods, and that's it. So I'm curious to know how Maui and Lanai's schools, if they have any of that.
So Lanai
I can answer.
has, go ahead, sure.
Yeah, I can answer that. Yes, through MEDB, there is an agriculture program with the high schools. So it's providing tools and education for the teachers in agriculture and working with the students. So there is both agriculture departments, schools, classes, events, and activities with MEDB.
Aloha, Hana High and Agricultural, Hana High and Elementary School has a very active agricultural program. And, they have a kalo production. They make poi once a week for the community and for the kupuna. They are working on being able to provide for the school lunch program and developing a larger agricultural program, but they are very active, and they have another program where they have a community garden where the community can go and work for a couple of hours and harvest, and then they mahele all of the production to the community. So just wanted to share that.
That's awesome.
Great. That's great.
We'll be in Hana next week on Saturday, Dawn.
Oh, I'll look forward to meeting you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can add a little bit to the Lanai High. We had a little bit one step forward, two step backs kind of story with our program on Lanai. We have a teacher who's very interested And we do have a plot of land on the campus. It's only about 1 acre. But Pulama has helped in a way that they put a deer fence around that plot. It's just now due to the turnover rate of our teachers that we just need, some more teachers to kind of step up. We have one teacher, but she can't do it all, of course. And that's kind of, I'm sure that's the story that happens a lot in the school systems, but I definitely, I love the county to help more with that. And, especially with all the, the school lunches and everything, that there's such a wide lane that we could help with our little plot of land and a little program. So looking forward to expanding that in any way we can do to help.
Yeah, and I
Thank you.
believe that other high schools have programs as well. I can ask Lane Huff to send you guys like a full list. She's with Maui School Garden Network. So she should be able to send you a full list of like middle schools, elementary schools, and high schools that have the ag program.
Yeah. What was her name, Jennifer?
Lane Huff, LEHNHUFF.
Okay, thank
And I can have Brittany James send you a list of a list of schools that she works with from MEDB.
Okay, what was Brittany's last name?
James, Maui Economic Development Board, MEDB.
Okay.
Thank you.
Another one of the priorities was opening up channels for sales for local farmers, institutional sales. So I figured that meant the DOE, state hospital, the corrections facilities,
Prisons.
the prisons. Just as far as schools go, are there any Maui farms that are able to sell produce to any Maui schools, whether they be private, public, or charter, that are pretty successful over here?
I think it depends on the school. I know that some of the private schools do purchase local produce. I know that for CGC, we sell to like Kamehameha schools, and that we supply to like snack programs and things like that. And I do believe there's other farms that do that too. And there's a lot of people working really hard to try and get more of that. I think the large barrier is the uniformity in the DOE like school. They want all the lunches to be the same. So I think that's been a really big barrier because it's a really large amount of food that you would have to meet the demand for every week or month. So it puts a lot of burden on the farmers.
I can
Yeah.
I was just gonna say from the Molokai perspective, I mean, and Kali, you might already know this, but we've had some really great success in scaling back and looking at like the after school programs like FFVP, so the fresh fruits and vegetable programming, and getting in local produce, that sort of that direction versus the school lunches at this point. This is all pre-pandemic, of course, and trying to now really re-navigate what that all looks like with DOE, of course. But I think that there's a lot of momentum, and as Jennifer said, there's a lot of really amazing work that's happening, not even county, but statewide, to really make this a priority area. So yeah, just wanted to add that little bit.
Yeah, and I wanted to add on to Jennifer, my sister-in-laws both were cafeteria managers on Molokai, and they always wanted to purchase local, but it comes down to having the amount consistent every time, and that was the issue, less than uniformity. So I think that's an area that needs to be worked on as well, consistency.
To
We're-
piggyback on that. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Kenneth.
No, you please go.
Hi, Nick.
There's quite a bit of organic farmers on Maui. And the goal should never be the DOE because you could never supply enough for all the schools. But you probably can successfully take on because we have quite a few private schools, elementary schools, intermediate. So that should be the goal, rather than looking at DOE. DOE is beyond anyone's ability, because whether there's a hurricane or, you know, heavy rain or what, you have to produce. It's a contract. You cannot
Yeah.
take on a school, it's a contract. So you have to provide, and that's why mainly wholesalers have been supplying the large DOE schools, because if they're short of something in Hawaii, they can fly it in. Now, unless you have that ability, you're not going to be able to do these procurement contracts. So, but they probably could possibly take on private schools. That's, to me, doable.
That's a good point.
That's a great point.
If I can kind of piggyback on that as well, this is Nick Winfrey at Maui United Way. It's good to see you, Kali, and everyone else. With the Cow for Keiki program, USDA funding on subsidized meals, free lunch programs, etc. There is an opportunity. Obviously, we did it last year, this summer as well, really on a small scale, thanks to Nuestro Futuro. But there is an opportunity for purchasing power with USDA funds based on USDA guidelines. And I believe there's an earmark out with Senator Schatz's office statewide for next year as well. And there's a really solid model for purchasing power, and that's not uniformity across the board. It's uniformity in nutritional value, right? So based on USDA guidelines. And there is a big push right now to get that allocation increased up to Alaska's level from like $5.50 a meal up by about 40%. That still doesn't cover locally produced food here. It still has to be subsidized. But there is some opportunities in that space and some solid models with Cow for Keiki moving forward for localized farming purchase. Once again, it is difficult for us here in the county. Mahipono has the capacity and kind of centralized location, but Jamie at Sustainable Molokai did some amazing work over there, as well as Lanai and Hana Farmers Market in East Maui. So there are some opportunities for funding injections from the Fed specifically for those programs.
I like being able to measure productivity and improvement in terms of nutritional value. Forgive me though, I'm a little unfamiliar with how you actually measure for that. Would that require lab testing?
No, it's actually just servings, right? So there's, bok choy is a green leafy vegetable. You've got a protein, you've got, locally produced beef, etc. It's really just servings, right? Servings of grains, fruit, veggies, protein, dairy, etc. One of the really solid things about this program, just for us here, is that we can look at culturally appropriate food and look at processed ulu, poi, things like that in lieu of other things, and that was some success. So there's USDA guidelines, and we just kind of fill in the blank with specific measurements and weight.
Because there's an argument that we can say, like, hey, if this is a locally produced carrot as opposed to a Grimway California carrot, it's got higher nutritional value and freshness. And in terms of doing a comparison and showing the value of local produce.
And less fuel costs and less, to the nth degree. You've got a supporter here for that, for sure.
Thanks for bringing that up. I'll do more research. Okay. I got another question if there's time. Agricultural technology was another theme that came up. And the comments like drones came up, but are there other forms of agricultural technology that the farmers would like to hear more about or would like more research done for Hawaii?
I know from what I've heard is like a lot of like processing and packaging technology, things like that, irrigation technology, and then also implementing like energy efficient strategy into agriculture more. So like, turbines in water generation, things like that, solar power, So those types of technologies.
Fantastic.
I just wanted to share that one of the goals that I have is to eventually have critical farming infrastructure in each farming community to facilitate the production and make things more efficient for producers. And Molokai, I feel like, is ahead of the game because we already have a slaughterhouse. We have a USDA inspector in place that lives on the island. We have a cooling plant, which Larry Jeffs is using, but there's space in there, like 50% of the place is occupied. Potential to, share space with other producers. We also have a successful cooperative that's been there from the 70s. And, so we have those things in place. We even have a heat treatment chamber that Elton Arakaki and I helped Kumu Farms learn the process and help bring the CTAR engineer over to do a demonstration heat treatment chamber, which eventually became a real chamber later on. And I think there's 2 now. But that's an example of a farming community that has critical infrastructure that helps support the producers. And I would like to see those in each community, not saying that they need all of those things, but whatever piece they need, I would like to see that in the communities. And I just like to know if you agree, or do you think that's a far shot? I know it's going to be, that's like the long term, the future of how to address the issue of what I see as making Maui County a circular, sustainable system. That's one of my visions.
Oh, I'll let Kenneth, you go first. Yeah.
Have you toured the Kula vacuum cooling plant?
No, but are you inviting us? We'd love to go.
Well, I'm technically still a member, but I haven't produced for years. But there is a board. The vacuum cooling plant is a little different than just a cooling plant. They also have crushed ice they sell for the broccoli producers. They also had there was a separate refrigerator. You had to rearrange, I think it was tomatoes, but they had equipment to cool down tomato, because when the farmer is harvesting, he's out. And so the vacuum cooling plant, it's taking out moisture, number one, from the product, and then it's cooling it to about 34 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So it improves the shelf life of the crops, especially leafy crops, celery, lettuces, that broccoli is processed, but that's something we have that I don't think Molokai has. And then we have refrigeration space. But the other thing, to me, if we could, I would push for this expansion lot of the egg park to be solely organic, because then you can make maybe a kitchen. There's land enough to make a kitchen, but you have refrigeration, you have 3-phase power, which comes in handy when you build structures. So it has a lot of things that could be improved, in fact. But we have a facility. So we don't just have refrigerators, like a cooling plant. That we have other tools to work with on plants. But there is space, in my opinion, to put a commercial kitchen, which could really help producers.
Right. And we have that too on Molokai.
Yeah.
So,
You have a fantastic kitchen in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Your point about the organic is you can't have conventionally grown produce touch the same table as the organic produce. Otherwise, you risk losing.
It's on pallets and in boxes. It
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
mix. They don't mix the stuff.
But so when they touch the surfaces, so that's a good call. Are you on the planning committee for the Kula Ag by any chance? You
No, he's on the board. Oh, you're a member, right?
remember the board?
Well, I have been a member, but I haven't produced in years.
Just like that recommendation.
But Jeff Haynes probably can take you to tour the facility. They actually have not just land for a new kitchen. They could do some other stuff. But they have the three-phase power, which makes a lot of things possible. And not every location has three-phase power, but that makes refrigeration more practical because the electrical cost is reduced.
Oh, I just want to pipe up here. I'm a new member of the board of Maui County Farm Bureau. I was just elected last year. And if you want to go visit the cooling plant, give Warren Watanabe a call.
Okay.
He's the person that you should contact. And also, Kali, there's other things that the Farm Bureau is working on that are part of what you described. They've done some work to help with our slaughterhouse and just a number of other things that I think you sat down with either Kyle Kairas or Warren Watanabe and talk about what the county Farm Bureau is doing. You would get a lot of good information.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to duplicate anything, but if we can pick up, areas that need, pushing over, then we want to do the research and see, how we can help in those ways. No sense duplicate and repeat what actions has been taken.
Right. I'm kind of the exception on the Farm Bureau board because I am a little farmer. And most of the people on the Farm Bureau board are big corporate type farmers. So I'm always looking for how can we do more with the county money to help the little farmers. And what you described is the kind of things that I think the little guys can't do on their own. Somebody like Mahipono, they've got all the money in the world to do those things, but the rest of us need to work together.
I would love to just make a comment at that point. And I think, and Kali, thanks so much for mentioning all of the amazing infrastructure we do have at Molokai, but there is an element that I just want to bring up that a lot of that infrastructure has become privatized. It's not open actually to community, small scale community farmers. And so as we're looking at either building out new infrastructure or looking at existing infrastructure, I would really, my ask would be that you guys would consider that it's not a privatized individual entity, but something that is available for community use as we look at this.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was looking at.
Bobby, if you don't mind me asking, have you applied for one of the county micro grants? During this past budget season, I doubled the amount of money available to farmers from 1.5 million to 3 million. So we have those micro grants available.
No, I haven't yet, but I think it's in the future in the next few months, Gabe. So there was a lot of going on with those grants last year that caused issues, but and also, the grants for the deer fencing, that was a problem because, we're smaller than 12 acres, so we couldn't get that group. But I think the one you're talking about is the one we can go for.
There was another thing I was thinking about as we move forward on trying to build an infrastructure. It's the management in the long term for that. So Jamie, thanks for bring up the point that a lot of it is privately managed. How do you develop something and keep it open to the community for multiple growers to access? And it would be interesting to hear your thoughts in terms of management structures, whether we try and promote more co-op management or board management, and what those entities might look like. I think oftentimes people look at the county as also building something and then managing it into the future. How do you do something what's more community driven and more democratic? And how do we get personalities to get along and perpetuate something wonderful? So I don't want to sidetrack the discussion with that, but it's just something on the back burner that we'd like to talk about in the future.
So Nicholas Winfrey said nonprofit management, and I think co-ops are really a great idea too.
I got that down, cooperative. And yeah, some of them are privatized, like the cooling one is privatized. The slaughterhouse is a cooperative, so you can join the cooperative to be a member, but anybody can purchase from there. And Kikiola is membership, but also people that non-members can purchase goods from there. Kumu Farms owns the heat treatment chamber, but he purchased it at one time. He was purchasing the papayas from the organic growers because they couldn't produce enough to export themselves. So it was a win-win situation. He purchased from them, and then he took on the responsibility of exporting and inspecting, and so it was a win-win situation. But definitely looking at it into more cooperative type ventures.
I have another comment from the Areas of Need survey. Folks really love the Hawaii Farmers Union United FAM program, the Farmer Apprenticeship Program. They were really complimentary of the My Food Hub, which we look forward to going and seeing and touring, and Maui Nui Food Alliance, and CIWG. Lots of compliments from all those 230 people. So it's good to see what the real assets to the community that are already in place.
You guys have more questions or comments?
No, but I see Shay on. Hi, Shay. Haven't seen you in years.
Hey, Kali.
You look the same.
No, I do not. You look the same. Kelly was one of the first people I ever met in Maui County in the first couple of years I got here, 30 years ago. Actually, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for logging on and, going through your questions with us and allowing us time to, talk to you and get an idea of where you guys are at with the process and things. I know everybody really, really appreciates you guys stepping up to do this job. We know it's going to be a lot of work, but we are all very, very supportive. We have a really huge group of people in Maui County that want to see this department really thrive. So I did give Callie and Weston access to the entire Google Drive, all of our work. That includes the Zoom email list. So everybody that's on that email list, they have access to your email. But if you do want to share your contact with them individually and maybe some of the groups that you guys are on, that would be good for them as they start building their network of resources, you know, to work on things. I think it would be very beneficial. And then Callie, again, her appointment hearing is on the 30th. Do you know if it's in the morning or afternoon, Callie?
I believe it's in the morning. But I will just look for the notice. You know, that what is it, 6-day prior notice that they send out, or it's on the council calendar.
Yeah, the council calendar. Is that in Mike Molina's committee then?
Yeah, the great committee.
Okay. So I'm sure that she would appreciate any testimony and support for her appointment. I'm really happy with both of you guys being appointed. I think you guys really care. You have great experience and very knowledgeable. So, you know, I am going to support and I urge you guys to do that too, so that they can feel supported in their appointment. And they're going to be meeting with other groups. So I will try to send out that link to at least include, or in the next email, in the follow-up email for this department, I'll at least include the committee where you can send in testimony. I don't know if they'll have the agenda up, but at least you'll have that so you can send it in.
Yeah, it's new to me, so I apologize. I don't have much answers for you, but and I just want to end by saying, you know, we have a lot of experience that we can bring to the table, but I'll be the first to say that if I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know, but I have a lot of resources and connections with other ag professionals through my career. So I'll find find answers for you. We'll work our best to, you know, help everyone out as much as possible.
You mind if I say 2 quick things?
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's a lot of trust to put out your email and phone numbers and names out there. So just want to let you know, Colleen and I are both very aware of confidentiality and being respectful of your contact information. So we want to just give you that assurance, especially for farmers. And then the other part is, yeah, we're getting our feet wet. We may stumble, but we're not going to kick. If you can tell the difference, if ever something happens, we make a misstep, please feel free to just reach out to us directly so we can try and hold upon with things, because we just want to be good servants and try and accomplish a lot on behalf of the community. And thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have anything else they want to say? Otherwise, we can jump into Bill 105. So you guys can get on with your evening. Oh, okay. Kate, Gabe, do you guys want to say anything about it?
Okay, well, thank you guys. I guess I'll introduce myself because I know a lot of you, but some of you might not know me. I'm Gabe Johnson, Maui County Council member for the island of Lanai. Really excited about this bill. A little bit about my background. So my first experience in farming was when I was in my 20s. I went to stay with my Okinawa grandmother in Okinawa, and I worked on an Okinawa pig farm. Then I took a career in conservation on the island of Lanai, and I worked in conservation. So the cat sanctuary, I put a lot of cats in the cat sanctuary. You might know that cat sanctuary. So I also worked at the Kumaola Farms, and I was it was basically 2 guys on a 3-acre lot, and we did the best we could, and I did that up until 2019. And then now I'm the chair of affordable housing, but farming is still my passion. Bill 105 is really like a lot of the guidelines on the department. And I think when you look over Bill 105, I hope you see your thumb on the scale. I hope that this group here noticed a lot of things that we took into account and we put it in the law. So your working group has have had major influence on this legislation, and I want to thank you. So I'd be surprised if you have questions, because this is really a lot of this group coming, reflecting it back, and here it is. You should pat yourself on the back. This is a lot of your hard work and blood, sweat, and tears into this bill, and I'm happy to introduce it. So that's just what I wanted to add to it.
Yeah, I went through it and it's really great the way you guys format it. You basically took the areas of need and then just put it into a format, into like legislative format. So we're really, really thankful for that. I did mention to the group, the one thing that got like left out was over. I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself over here, guys. I just want to say thank you. You guys did a great job. They basically took the areas of need from the proposed code highlights and put it into legislative format. So I'm not sure if you guys got a chance to look over that, but I sent the link to it. So they did a really, really fantastic job, including everything with the reporting areas that we requested, the areas of need that we requested. And I think the one portion that got left out was oversight. It just was at the very end and they didn't see it. So that was the departmental, oh, what's it called? Sorry. Departmental resource and assistance targets, and that's how we wanted the department to focus on small to moderate sized farms, so that we're ensuring that we're not missing those. And a lot of the times when you have, you know, governments or large projects where you're trying to provide resources, the people with the most resources will actually utilize it first because they have the resources to have the time and energy and knowledge to spare to navigate those channels. So if the department is seeking to focus out the smaller mid-sized farms, then we'll make sure that those folks don't get left behind. And so Kate, I think, had said that they were going to try and do an amendment to get that in. So that was the only thing, but other than that, it looks really, really amazing. They did a fantastic job. I didn't have any questions on it, but I wanted to give the group an opportunity to go over it, ask any questions or make any comments too. Do we have any questions or comments? Are we good?
I also put the link to
Straightforward.
the,
Go
I
ahead,
put the
Kate.
link to the bill in chat. Just in case people don't have it in front of them, the link is in chat.
Okay. I sent it out with the email, so hopefully they have it, but if not, they can pull it up easily here. Give you guys a few minutes to go over it.
There's something I guess I could add in the powers, duties, and functions in area of need under to section C. It's something that we talked about. It was the grants, the grant writing and the grant receiving. As a former farmer, I recall struggling to get to write a grant, struggling to and see all this federal money also as well. The would pass by the state because we weren't really advocating for farmers on account, on any level. So yes, it's in the code now, but also there's a part that we're not, it isn't in the code, but that's basically the budgeting of things. So we budgeted for positions like grant writers that were specifically out there to help the county apply for federal grants for their Department of Ag. Right. So there's also a piece of this puzzle that we're going to have positions that are going to go out and actively try to get federal monies for our farmers. We're going to try to get for the department. So, and that will really make a robust department, and because, you got to have a little bit of money to get this show on the road. So during budget season, I fought hard to get these grant writers funded. So that's another part that's not really baked into the legislation here, but it's just to let you know that come budget season, there might be more needs or more things that you want to talk about. And I'm all ears for that if come budget season, we need to fund certain things.
Go ahead, Jerry.
I'm back. Gabe, I was wondering if you have been keeping abreast of the development of the, what's it called, County Economic Development Strategy through MEDB.
Well, can you get more specific? Like, yes, I'm aware, but what in particular?
It comes up for renewal every 5 years, right? And I think Leslie Wilkins is working on the renewal aspect of that right now. And two of the really big things that had come through in agriculture from the 2016 meetings and brainstorming was, the need for local fertility, which includes compost, and the need for modern slaughterhouse facilities to support small-scale ranchers. And basically, it was my understanding that once that SEDS is completed, that then opens the door for Maui County to apply for up to $3 million in capital expenditures through the Economic Development Administration, EDA. And from 2016 to today, Maui County did nothing, even though that money was basically sitting there as it could be cherry picked for areas that we had already recognized as being critical. And 5 years down the road, those areas are still critical. And I was just wondering, would the addition of grant writers to the Department of Agriculture allow us to actually take advantage of these programs and hopefully not squander these opportunities again?
Yeah, that would be ideal for that particular grant writer to access those funds, right? And I am in full support of that. And that would be a perfect example. Here on Lanai, and some of you may know, Pulama Lanai has a mobile slaughter kind of trailer, and that's for the axis deer. And everyone on Maui has been talking about axis deer. That's such a hot topic now. And I'm hearing now that administration in the county level are interested in purchasing them and running them. And if there's funds out there, that would be the ideal goal for that grant writer to go and get those grant monies. It hasn't happened yet. I agree with you, Jerry, and I'm not sure why it hasn't happened, but that's something, of course, we should be looking at.
I'm just going to add, I think it was really great that the council, kind of looked at the strategic plan and they did allocate money for different grant writers. So like one to work on capital improvement projects where we can go after these larger federal monies for infrastructural needs and things, larger needs, and then also for community needs where they can write for multiple farmers and ranchers and provide needs for them on a smaller scale too. So I'm really, really thankful for what the county council did during budget to get those positions in and funded. I think it's going to be a tremendous help because it'll just be injecting resources, much needed resources to get some of these things going that are way overdue.
Hi, Jennifer, this is Debbie. Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm on my phone and I was driving and now I'm settled. But, I was listening to the conversation about the SEDS. And I think one of the things is that MEBD was contracted to conduct the SED study and do the plan. But then there was no plan after that for somebody to actually work the plan. And so I think having a grant writer in the Department of Ag is going to be huge, because exactly what Gabe said, there's so many opportunities out there, and it becomes a capacity issue. I mean, even for us as nonprofits, sometimes there's money out there, but having the administrative staffing, the grant writers to do that, to bring the money in is extremely important. So I think it's a great thing. Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments about the part of the bill? We're at 6 o'clock. I'm like, this is pretty early, but if there's no questions or comments, I mean, that's a great thing. We're all in agreement.
I'm still reading it,
Okay,
but there's a lot to read. I don't have any immediate questions right now. How about you, Wes? Okay.
for the reporting requirements, since you guys are reading it, I think it would be good to mention that, you know, we broke that down into different areas so that you guys wouldn't feel overwhelmed, where there's like the collation of data from other places, combining it so that it's available to the county. And then you guys' needs of tracking things, and then also just, you know, like community outreach type reporting on the progress of the department, the satisfaction of the community with the department and things like that. So it seems overwhelming, but I think if we get the right people to build out the databases, it could be really streamlined so that you're not having to do a ton of work.
One thing I'll add to the discussion is that, you know, we'll give you the time and place if you want to come testify, right? So it's at 1:30 p.m. In the APT committee on the 16th, August 16th is when this bill will come before the committee. So I know, like, if you want to come testify and speak on it, you certainly can. Having said that, I have a total open door policy. I'll type my email in the chat. If you ever want to have a meeting with me or just want to send me an email, I'm transparent. Talk to me anytime. I'll get back with you. I know I'm busy, but this is, you know, farming is a passion of mine. So I'll try to reach out to you as soon as I hear from you.
100%. And then I'm going to reach out to Lauren, who helped me do the pushes for the last legislation, to get draft testimony sent out and the notification of the meeting and the link to the meeting details and bills that we can send out to everybody to share with their networks as well, so that we can get some testimony in support of that, because it would be a shame if we did all this work to have the proposed code highlights turned into legislation and then we don't have the testimony to support it. So that will be something really, really important. Go ahead, Bobby.
I apologize because this is the first meeting that I have attended, so I don't know if you've already talked about this potential situation. But one of the things I know we were expecting from our new department is that they are advocates for farmers. And I see a potential issue coming up. We have Bill 79, which is in the works, which is we are asking for the current 90-day exemption for people who have ag water during a drought to be extended to 100.
Bobby, you're cutting
this is
out.
a huge thing because, sorry, should I turn off my video? To me, it's a really big deal because without water, we cannot grow anything. Without water, you cannot raise cows. If you have to cut back on your vegetables, you're all screwed up for a long time. Your crop rotations are messed up, and it's hard to get back in business. If you cannot raise cows, you can be out of business for years. So to me, getting this extension for the ag water consumer is a really big deal. And we are running into some resistance from the Department of Water Supply, who say that they cannot supply the water. And to me, we need the council to stand behind the farmer, and we need our Department of Ag to stand behind the farmer and say we need to make sure farmers have a way of getting a steady supply of water. So we need to know, what will it cost to get more water? Is there a way that we can fund that if it's going to cost more? It's all about a steady supply and knowing what it will cost. And so I would expect that there's going to be situations like this that come up where our Department of Ag, which is our advocate in the council administration, is going to butt heads with other departments. So I don't know if there's something in this bill which would address that situation for us.
Okay, well, I can just, I mean, there's, water is, the expression is whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. So I understand that we have to advocate for our farmers, for water. There's so many, there's so many points that you made that I can speak on, but first off, I just had a meeting with Deputy Director Agawa in the water department. And yes, they are, concerned about when we're in drought, they might even, according to them, they don't have that kind of water, right? So one thing that they're talking, it's going to be long-term, but we do have to come up with new sources of water, right? And, I live on Lanai, there's no running rivers or streams here. We use fog drip. And fog drip is what keeps our aquifer recharged. So we have to look at creative ways to do that. That's a long-term solution, right? In the meantime, I hear you loud and clear. I butt heads with the water department for affordable housing projects, right? I think hopefully the new department works with the water department, and we can come to those solutions. That's not. I think they stand on a hill, right? And their hill is they have to protect the water. There's parts of it where we do have to create better conservation efforts as well as new sources. I like the idea of a desal plant. Here on Lanai, we were very close to having a desal plant. The methane that comes out of our city dump, the methane gas that comes out, we could capture that to help fuel a desal plant, and that is a big project down the road, and it doesn't solve isn't the solution for right now. But I think there are technologies that we can do to make better source. Having said that, I totally hear where you're coming from, where from the farmer's point of view, you need water. 3 things farmers need: land, water, and a little bit of capital. And that's really, the basics of it. In this legislation, I'm pretty sure I have to find it. Let me go look for
There
it.
is, so E4 would legislate them to work as community liaisons and advocate for farmers in the agricultural sector. And then also F1, provide policy and regulation assistance by reviewing it and providing input on regulations with consequences to the agricultural system, and advocate for change incentives or exemptions when needed. Also, I believe G would cover it, and then also J, sections 1 and 2. So those would all touch on them working on behalf of the agricultural sector to address things like this. So there is ample sections in this legislation that would help legislate this department to really focus on things like that and advocate on behalf of the farmer, specifically to address the question.
And then how it would happen from a practical aspect would be then for Kali and Wes is you two will, or one of you will represent the Department of Agriculture in committee when the item comes up on August 30th. And then also, so you might be asked specific questions, but then also you'd probably be expected to get together with the Department of Water Supply and just ask them what are their plans, what could they do, and try to create some kind of conversation to on a department to department level.
Yeah, I was going to say, whenever a bill comes up that concerns agriculture, the department will come and hopefully comment on that bill, and hopefully they advocate for it. They will advocate for that bill on the floor, not in front of all the other administrative departments and the council members.
Yeah, I think advocacy was a huge component of what is needed from the department. So we made sure to try and get that covered multiple times within the bill. But I thank you for bringing up that legislation. It is really important legislation. I know a lot of people were hurt by the, the drought regulations on agricultural land. So I appreciate you bringing that up specifically.
I just wanted to say real fast, for me, this is the first time reading through this 105. And I have not read the full contents of the bill, the Water Bill 79 yet. So please understand if I don't have any comment at this time, it's just because I haven't read it yet.
Both of us.
Yeah, so please understand that's our current position. We need to understand what we need to understand first. Thank you.
And we'll reach out to you ahead of time so you're not surprised 2 days before that there's a committee meeting. I'll send an email like I did from the committee, giving you a little bit more heads up and an opportunity to ask us questions. And if you don't ever know an answer on the floor, you can just explain, you'll come back and do some research and, you know, get back with a written comment or something. We don't expect you to know everything right away, always.
Hi, Bobby.
Coming from, I'm on the Government Affairs Committee for the Farm Bureau. And I think you know that the Farm Bureau was originally against the formation of the department, but they're getting behind it now. I think we're getting over some of that. I think that what I think is going to happen is they will support this bill. And what I hear they are continually afraid of is that the department adds regulations, that they're going to add regulations. So where in the bill would I see that they're not going to be adding regulations?
So that was actually included in the charter amendment, that this was a legislation. Right. So that was actually propaganda spread by some of the leadership of Maui County Farm Bureau and other folks.
Yep.
But a lot of the members were actually really in support of the department from the beginning. So I think it was very key people that kind of misconstrued the intent for the department. So that actually was included in the charter amendment. So that actually cannot be changed without a community general public vote. So it's more solidified than the actual code.
Right. So do you think we need to put anything in this bill to support what is in the charter?
Well, it talks
I'm just
about,
trying to make sure I can get this all supported well within the Farm Bureau board.
yeah, so this is actually putting it in the code would be less restrictive than putting it in the charter. So the charter is more restrictive. They couldn't change that at all without an actual vote by the general public. The code can be changed at any time by council members. So we put that in the charter so that it would ensure that everybody's concerns were covered. And then in here, there's really no talk. If you read through it, there's no talk of any regulations. We do talk about like helping create a streamlined permitting process and knowledgeable ag inspectors, but that's the closest thing. So there shouldn't be anything in here that is even remotely talking about any kind of regulations or creating barriers or anything like that that they were talking about in the beginning.
So what you're saying, what I think I hear you saying is we don't need to have that in this bill because it's in the charter.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns? Do you guys need any clarification on anything that you've read so far?
Yeah. I have a question. Page 5, reporting requirements, section 22.02.030, the demographics. And so these statistics are things that I guess we'll be charged with seeking information from the farmers. I just want to ask, have all the farmers on here agreed to supply things like the value of their crop, the poundage of crop, ages of workers? Like, is this something people have already in this group agreed to provide? Hopefully. 'Cause I know sometimes the farmers I work with are
So if,
conservative with the information they want to provide, you know?
yeah, correct. So it's not going to force anybody to do it. And this actually is in the portion where you're going to collect this information from agencies already working to collect this information. So a lot of agencies, organizations, and different institutions within the county are already collecting this information. However, it's not collated in one central, like through one central agency. So you have to, like, each different agency that is collecting that information is collecting it in different areas. So that's the area we're asking you to like collect and collate that from other agencies. So you wouldn't be going directly to farmers and trying to collect that information.
Because it's doable. And when you say agencies, do you mean like other Maui County agencies, or are we
Correct.
talking like
Census,
NGOs?
like USDA, you've got like the different ag schools, you've got different like HFUU and Maui County Farm Bureau. So different agencies that are collecting that information already, trying to centralize that in a database. So we're trying to make it so it's easier for you guys to collate that rather than going and doing it on your own. We don't want you to have to duplicate that work. We just are looking for it to be in a centralized, organized manner so that it actually benefits and helps prevent people from working in silos and repeating efforts as well.
I think we also put this in too, yeah, because this information will help when applying for grants.
Yeah.
Then it can be very data driven.
I have a question for section E, page 3, number 1 and 2. How does CTAR play a role in that? Education, outreach, and advocacy? Or have they been effective in meeting and addressing those areas?
I think there's a number of agencies, not just CTAR, that are working to do educational programs. There's programs of the DoE and things like that. And I think a lot of them are trying their best. I think a lot of them are underfunded, undersupported. I think that is basically the case with UH-CTAR as well. So working to support those programs, and then also, you know, looking how we can expand those efforts and also take on some of that role at the department to share what's already happening and share about those programs and get that information out as well. So they've been doing a great job with what they have and their resources. And then, you know, I think we already discussed this, that the staff turnover has been pretty large just because there was a lot of people that retired. So we have a lot of newer people in those positions. And so making sure that we can kind of get them up to speed and have that information. Maybe that their work to have their information database too, so that we don't lose that generational knowledge when we have turnover like that, that we have a way to you know, keep that.
Well, so do any of you see a gap in terms of crops or topics that need to be looked at? I know this is more general, the number 1 and 2, but are there pressing areas that you guys have been talking about that you would like attention to, or any crops?
Like specific crops? I think one
Yeah.
of the
I
big
saw in the survey the tropical fruits.
like Hawaii tropical fruit growers.
Like there are other areas. No, so there was just a comment in the one of these the responses in the information you shared mentioned tropical fruits. So I was just curious to know if there's any other crop areas or, you know, specific crops that, you know, that the group thinks is something that is lacking and needs more attention to.
Go ahead, Jared.
Well, currently there's no one on island at the UHMC, excuse me, CTAR that is an expert or is acquainted with coffee, which is, I think we're going to have close to 1,000 acres by the time Mahipono finishes their planting, along with Maui Grown. And there's a lot of small farmers around the island. And in Kona, they actually have an extension specialist dedicated to coffee. And
Skip,
she
yeah, is
actually
that
comes
Skip?
over.
Oh, Skip Bittenbender used to be that, and he used to be the coffee. I don't know if
It's a
he
woman, she's
retired
retired.
or.
Yes, Skip is retired. And so there's a woman named Andrea Kawabata
There you go.
in Kona.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's an absolute gem. She'll come over here, I assume using CTAR resources, and meet with farmers here. And she's been very supportive and has been really good at helping us grapple with coffee berry borer
Mhm,
and
mhm.
leaf rust, which are two real negative developments in the coffee industry. But in terms of on-island expertise, we don't really have that. Not that we necessarily should have someone here all the time, because Andrea does avail herself to come over here a couple of times a year, and she's open to come more than that if we need her.
Yeah, oh, that's good. Yeah, her dad and I were extension agents at the same time.
On Molokai.
No, he's in Hilo, Andrew Kawabata.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
Jennifer?
Go ahead.
I don't know if this is on the topic, but it seems to me as we gather the information, one of our goals is to supply the schools. And the federal government has requirements for what categories of food you have to cover. And I think that would be an important thing as the department gets going, is to figure out what we can use to, if we don't grow apples, what can we sell the department, and get the department really involved in buying from us, from the local farmers. That was my thinking on the conversation that Kaylee was starting.
There was a comment made earlier about.
Cully.
Sorry?
It's Cully, like the Cully.
Oh, Kali. Okay.
Thank you for asking.
You bet.
William, there was a comment made earlier about, oh, it's very nice to meet you. I've seen your email name pop up a few times. There was a comment made earlier by Mr. Yamamura, just about scale and quantity. I think Maui Food Hub and its ability to aggregate, and other food hubs' ability to aggregate to try and meet some of those volume requirements will be something we'll visit in terms of trying to supply the schools. The other thing I've been trying to work with when I was on Oahu, worked for Department of Ag, was getting DOE to define what levels of food safety, certification or inspection that they expected. And I wasn't quite able to get a clear answer on that. So I'll continue to try and pursue what exactly does DOE want to make it possible for us to meet their procurement requirements. So it's in progress.
Sounds good. Also, the food hub's getting great metrics about who's growing what. It's just really, it's awesome what they've captured.
I think Jamie left, but I wanted to ask if Molokai has a food hub, an active food hub. I kind of look at Sustainable Molokai as a food hub, but
I'm still here. Sorry, my son's just
Oh.
getting ready to go to bed. So I'm just kind of doing multitasking at the moment. Yeah, so our organization does, we run the mobile market, which is essentially part of our food hub. So we do a couple different services. Our food hub has a couple arms of services. So we have the mobile market, which is the direct retail component of the food hub piece. And then we also have, we run a lot of, we've run a Kaukau for Keiki program through our food hub, as well as, and I think Nick Winfrey, I think he left the meeting, but he really addressed that earlier today. Other aspects of it is the technical assistance part. So the wraparound services for our farmers. So how do we provide those resources and educational components that are needed to get our farmers, especially beginning farmers, rooted, grounded, and growing and scale up. So our food hub also provides that aspect of it as well. So yeah, so we've seen a lot of success on our island. It's definitely, and I've had the real joy of being able to go, I've visited Autumn at Maui Food Hub recently and been able to check out food hubs throughout the state. And every food hub provides a little bit of a different service dependent on their community, all based on community needs. So there's a ton of different models out there, but all really doing amazing work throughout the state and county.
So, Jamie, is there more than Sustainable Molokai Food Hub, or is your agency the only one on our island?
Currently on Molokai, the only one. It's always based a little bit on scale, population, and as you know very well, most of our producers are backyard growers, small producers, and so there has not been a need for multiple aggregation, like local aggregation sites to pop up at this point.
I also want to touch on something in that general area, is that, there is a need for, farmers to be educated and collect information, but I think there's also a good need for markets to be educated on kind of like the barriers to farmers, especially when they're introducing like market regulations and things like that, and pricing, how they price the things and what is being paid to the farmer versus what they're retailing it for. I think that is an area of education. If we could, get into the markets, get into the retail locations and kind of let them know how they can be more supportive of local ag, and how, maybe exemptions or looking at different markups could be a way to get more local produce, support the local community and things like that, because I think that a lot of them aren't really aware of all of the things that the farmers are dealing with. And so, they have these regulations and contract needs and things to get in. And ultimately those are sometimes creating barriers for our farmers. And I don't think that they're aware of the unintended consequences of that. So education in that area, I think, is a really big need that a lot of people don't talk about.
Your timing on that comment's really good. Yesterday, actually, it was emailing both Lauren Nelson, who seems to be doing some early research on supermarkets and distributors. And yesterday, I also reached out to Lauren Zerbel, the executive director for the Hawaii Food Industry Association, who's in connection with a lot of those grocery chain owners, to try and make connection and drop some of those barriers to supplying those markets. Costco and Safeway and some of these mainland chains are a little more hard to access sometimes. So I'll put it out there, if there's any farmers on the group that actually sell to our Safeways and Costco's locally and have connections to their buyers, please feel free to forward that information to me so I can figure out who to call. That'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and adding on to that, one of the things that I would like to do is to pull the grocers and see, and even farmers market, to see what their top 10 produce is being sold locally, or what's their hot sellers, and of those 10, what are being imported, and somehow get the metrics on that, and eventually flip the numbers and have our local producers grow those that are being imported, so that we decrease the percentage of imported food and having locally grown food accessible to our community. So that will take a while, but that ties in with education too. Some growers are stuck on only wanting to produce certain things because they're successful at it. But if we can all have the mentality of trying to reduce what's imported by looking at what is in demand, and trying to maybe utilize our land to plant those instead.
Can I make a
Kelly?
quick, oh, I was gonna say, can I make a quick comment on that? And then I'm gonna have to jump off, but
Okay, I'll wait.
I don't have it for Maui or Lanai, but we do have a lot of data that we've been collecting on the island of Molokai that I'm happy to share with you in terms of demand, pricing, and working, with FMC, Masaki's, Lanai Goods and Grinds. So all the little small grocery stores here that I'm happy to share with you. I think a big point comes in the conversation really needs to turn a little bit to is pricing too. So what we're looking at grocery stores that typically purchase from large scale aggregators who get a very cheap price on a lot of the produce that's being imported into, from the mainland. And a lot of our local, I don't know about on Maui, but a lot of our producers here on Molokai they're not competitive pricing. We're real small scale farmers, and we don't know how to price our product in order to be competitive with the mainland products. And so doing an educational campaign on the value of local produce and what it actually takes to grow that, I think is something that's really valuable, as well as we're entering the conversation of marketing.
Yeah, and I believe it comes from cost of production. Growers are good, they're excellent at growing, but oftentimes they're not the best business person. And, finding out the cost of production is like the recipe to determine the fair pricing. But I did hear in our earlier conversations about the add-on to the marking up. And, so this just leads to us having to work with other agencies or professionals that can deliver that education to bring our farmers up to par to address that issue.
I think
Go ahead.
the point pricing is that's a really big deal. We've been working for 10 years to grow garlic, both elephant garlic and classic hardneck garlic. And there is no way, not a chance, a snowball's chance in hell that we could compete with the price either at restaurants or grocery stores and make it worthwhile for us to grow it. It takes a lot of touch time, meaning once we get it in the ground and we figured out a way where we only have to weed it once. This is all organic. But getting it out of the ground and keeping the quality high and getting it out to people, you have to touch it a lot of times. And that's, farmer hours. And that ends up, we ask what's a pretty fair price based upon prices that we know on the mainland, but we'll never compete with 5 pounds of peeled garlic that a restaurant can get for $10 at Costco. That's all machine peeled and grown in China or in California. And that's a huge barrier. Currently, we're selling the garlic mostly to people who understand the value and the work that we put into getting it to their tables, but it probably wouldn't fly with the majority of the people in terms of the price that we ask. And we have to figure out a way to crack that nut. I want to have our garlic on everyone's table, not because I want to get rich, because I won't get rich, but because I want people to see that, hey, we can do this on Maui. And this stuff was just grown down the street by people that you're friends with. And it tastes really good and it lasts a long time and it's really fresh. So we have to figure out a way to get these products to our community at an affordable rate.
Yeah, and Jerry, one solution is not going to fit everybody, but maybe like your product might be better off doing your niche marketing, like sounds like what you're doing. So agriculture is a component of a lot of different types of production systems. So, there's not a one answer to everything, but, we definitely can work to find improved or better solutions or connect people to to people who are successful in doing something similar.
I would like to add, I think it's still a worthwhile exercise to try and determine a cost. I was at Down to Earth and garlic was $12.99 a pound, I believe is what I saw. Even if you have a baseline calculated number to begin as a starting point of a conversation, Polly's point about this and your points about superior flavor and shelf life are valid marketing points. But I believe, again, the real key is for you to all the farmers to kind of understand what their real cost is. Is it a good business endeavor? And I'd love to taste it and try it. Please.
Well, it'd be really interesting to know what and I have no idea if, the Safeways and Foodlands, et cetera, keep statistics on garlic consumption in the state and whether or not we can inch closer to being, some semblance of being able to grow a lot of our garlic here in the state. I've been working with CTAR on this for the past couple of years, and we're getting some pretty amazing results in terms of both the quality, the predictability, and being able to save our own seed so that we become independent and sustainable in terms of having seed here that we've grown and raised. It's a really exciting time. And from a farmer perspective, even if we charge less than what Down to Earth charges on an acre, you can gross $160,000 an acre just on garlic sales per year. And that's only 4 months out of the year, because the way we grow it with CTAR's help is that it basically, you pop it in the ground in January and you pop it out of the ground in May. There's a big period of curing, et cetera, but you've got a product that will last all the way through to the next year. So that's one of the essentials. It's really exciting to see that we're making progress in that.
I have 2 comments on price of food. One of the big things we need out here in the Pacific are starches. And so I would definitely say that we're starting to have success with making flour out of plantain, ulu, and other crops that are in the ground. And I think that's important going forward. The value, when you add value to crops, that's when farmers can really start making money. And we definitely need flour. And the other thing I'd like to say is historically, it's always been a conversation about farmers providing food cheaper. And I would really like to not ever hear that again. I think that it's something the government started in the 50s. The US government started squeezing out family farmers, only making loans to groups that wanted to aggregate into large properties. And then they started beating on the prices and giving the bigger growers subsidies. So if anything, I'd like to see this department talk to the council about rebuilding our agriculture infrastructure, including some price supports for farmers while they're getting going. And then the final piece of the stool would be educating the public. And maybe you pay a little more for garlic, but maybe you don't have to go to the doctor so much, or you don't have a serious illness. Maybe some other costs get reduced in your life. And so I just don't want to see it one way, where we continue the conversation that the US government has started that's always on the back of the farmer, providing, oh, we're getting such cheap food. Well, look where it's gotten us. We're about the sickest country in the world right now. It hasn't gotten us anywhere at all having cheap food. So I think we should start talking about healthy food and then find a way for like the value adding. The starches, the breads we're making now with the ulu flour and the cassava and plantain, it's just delicious. It holds a lot of moisture and has great flavor. And we can produce it right here. It's really simple. You just dehydrate it. And then after that, you can grind it into a flour and use it for your ingredients. So we've got a lot of opportunities, that's for sure. But anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
I want to jump in just because I'm a nerd in this area, and I really, really think that there's so much opportunity with those like specific ideas. So like when you look at specific crops like this with garlic, where Jerry has a success, they have the model down there working with UHC-TAR to do that. It's really beneficial if we can like say, hey, we're looking for maybe 10 or 15 more farmers to kind of duplicate this process on their farm. And the county will help create the packaging, processing, distribution facilities to kind of get that going as a co-op model. So we'll support the co-op creation so that the farmers really just have to grow. And then all of that time, labor for washing, packaging, distribution, weighing, sorting, all of that goes to the co-op. So then you really can start actually bringing the costs down because you're helping subsidize that really labor intensive part of the growing process. And you can model this with many different crops. And then we can incorporate backyard growers, we can incorporate commercial growers, and then we can really start making these huge meeting these huge contract demands to get into these larger grocery stores, to get into these institutional facilities, because you're utilizing many different growers. So if one person has a crop failure, you have multiple growers that can step up and help with that. But the key part is we don't have the packaging, processing, and distribution facilities and support. So basically that all of that really labor intensive work is being put on each and every individual farmer. And it's just, that's where our price points are just not able to compete. Sorry, that's really, I think that's such an important part to understand, because we can compete with these prices if we're smart and we really work together.
Are there cooperatives on Maui, ag cooperatives?
There used to be quite a few. Kenneth would probably know some of the different cooperatives that there were.
We used to have 2 vegetable production co-ops. We both went out of business. There's still a vacuum cooling plant cooperative. I think other than what you have on Molokai, we don't have other co-ops.
Yeah.
But there's legislation in the state Senate about food hubs. But when I worked for the county, I never saw anything that legally allows a food hub to set prices. Cooperatives, on the other hand, in the 1920s, federal law allows produce cooperatives to set price. So I've always been curious how food hubs, how do you aggregate all this produce that could be of different quality and still pay the same price, right? For whatever you market maybe as a bag of produce. I'm not sure how you do that legally as far as federal law.
Well, the Maui Food Hub, you basically order from individual farms and it's aggregated at the food hub. So if you get limes, you have a choice of getting limes from Yamamura's farm or Kupa'a Farms or Greenleaf Farms. They're not generic limes, which is actually kind of cool because that fosters a greater farmer-eater connection, which I think is a benefit. I mean, to a farmer, we love it when we hear back from people that, oh yeah, those tomatoes, those are killer. That was really good. And then they will purchase that again. So we basically set the price that we want to the food hub. They pay us, but they then add an aggregation fee so that the fee that the shopper sees, the price that they see for tomatoes is what we're asking for plus the aggregation fee. If they feel they can pay that and they like the quality and then might try it once, and then if they like the quality, they'll try it more and more. That's where the price is set. So the prices it's a flat aggregation fee. I think it's like 40%, which is kind of high. I'd like to see more money coming in to keep the administration and operation of the food hubs lower so that the aggregation fee is lower so that the farmer can still ask a fair price, but then the eater actually is paying a little bit less because they're not paying as much for the aggregation fee. So I'd like to see some subsidies that way, but that's the way it works now. So we charge whatever we feel is fair for whatever we're selling to the food hub, and then they add their aggregation fee on it, and shoppers have the ability to choose or not to choose based upon price. They know the farm that the kalo is coming from, for example, and they will go with it. We've been selling hundreds of pounds of kalo on the food hub over the last year or so.
Yeah, I
So-
think you're on point with the aggregate fee, because I was doing value added. I was making ice cream out of our fruits on the homestead. And that's around, maybe we were doing less, but we get to set our price and then there's a fee. So I think you're spot on that.
Hi, I just want to jump in. I'm Christopher O'Brien. I'm with Sustainable Molokai, and I know that Jamie left the meeting. I just wanted to add, because I think we also help My Food Hub with setting up their website that they do ordering on. They actually use the same platform that we use on Molokai, which is the localfoodmarketplace.com, which they're working in a lot of different states to provide the online platform to make these sales. But our model is almost identical to what the Maui Food Hub model. I think our upcharge is a little less, I think, depending on if it's value added or produce, but I think our produce upcharge is 35%. But same thing here, you know, like even though we charge that 35%, that's not like what we make from that 35% is not really enough to keep our operation going. Like we have to supplement our operations with like grant funding and other resources. And so if there was a way for the county to support food hubs like ours operate, I think that would be a big help. And it could also help decrease the amount of the commission. So it will make it more affordable to the consumers if we can bring down that percentage. But at this point, it's really impossible for us to do that because we're not even making enough to run our own operations with that 35%.
And I'll just take off my hat and talk from CGC standpoint. So we kind of do that, but we do that with backyard growers. We actually charge 40% for the market connection. So we go out and harvest for everyone. And if they want to donate it, we don't charge a fee. So that goes straight to our community in need. So like food bank, homeless shelters, those kinds of programs, we don't charge at all. But if they decide to sell it, we take a 40% fee as well to do that. And then we only sell to local businesses. So, and that definitely doesn't cover our operations, but we feel like it's a fair rate to go out and do the harvesting and distribution for us, because these are not farmers. These are just people that have a lot of trees in their backyard. So they're not doing a lot of active work to keep up these crops. But it's still food that gets supplied into our system. But we're able to offset our costs with grants and things like that, foundational funding. So it is a way to kind of help offset those costs and things, and help with the distribution part of it, because it's a lot of food.
Are any members on the call members of the Hawaii Ulu Cooperative?
Oh, we got to connect you to Dr. Noah Lincoln
And his wife.
and his wife.
Donna Shapiro.
Yeah.
I only bring that up because they
I was gonna
recently
just ask.
printed like a 3-year history of all the grants and buildup they've done. Now they're just focused on breadfruit at first, but they're also doing taro and sweet potato. And it looks at like kind of a model of different funding sources and partnerships that we could possibly utilize to develop something really wonderful here.
Yeah.
in Maui.
Yeah.
And they're coming to Maui. Hopefully later this year, they're gonna try and introduce themselves around.
We can help with that.
You know, that's just the kind of networking I think the Department of Agriculture, our department, our county department can do, is make those connections between different agencies, between different islands, between different people. So I'm really excited about that. And just as an aside, there was a great interview with a couple that are making noodles using kalo, uala, and ulu.
on Oahu. And, you know, they said, we don't make the whole noodle out of these things, but I mean, it's a flour base, so we add all this other stuff. So we're decreasing the amount of off-island material that we have to import and using what's, and the guy was, you know, you can go back, it's whatever the 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock thing is, the conversation. It was a really good interview. The couple that are doing that work on Oahu, they're really dedicated to having local farmers involved. So it was really great.
I'm glad Wes brought up that the Ulu Cooperative, because I was gonna ask, but I figured, oh, everybody knows Dr. Noah Lincoln. But you guys, yeah, I recently met him and when I was down in Kalapapa, because he was gonna do some germplasm research on the 1 or 2 trees that are down there that may have been there before the Western contact. So he focuses on Hawaiian cultural tree foods, and his wife is also involved in that area. So yeah, we'll make a connection with you guys.
Kali Hokoau Pellegrino's doing a great job with the ulu flower also.
Oh yeah, I'm waiting for him to email me back.
Okay, now you got a new conversation with him.
Yeah, I mean, I emailed him a couple of days ago, and I know he's like super busy, but I want to go see what's happening with the youth, you know, youth in agriculture up there. What's the ag program like, or the natural resources program like?
Jerry, I heard that interview today too. That was terrific how they explained they couldn't make it until they started doing the value added. And just imagine how much food we can get off ulu trees. If you're making flour, it would be, we could produce a lot of flour here in Maui.
My kids like French fries, ulu French fries, so it never gets to that point of or baked, you know, baked the healthy style with 1 block of butter and 1 box of brown sugar.
Well, I'm so hungry right now. Yeehaw.
All right, you guys, this has been an amazing conversation. Do we want to touch on anything else, you guys, or have any questions, comments?
No, I mean, I will definitely read this bill. Thank you for sharing. And we do have a meeting with Gino, who's gonna also give us more insight on some items. And I guess if we have any questions, we can reach out to you, Jennifer. And just want to thank everybody. The work that you guys did was awesome. Tremendous amount of time I can see that was put into the assessment, and it helps us to, you know, we're not coming in with a blank sheet. So I appreciate it, because some of these things are really hard to grapple, and it's a great tool for us. So mahalo.
I also want to mention on that note, while you guys review it, especially when you get to the reporting requirements, because I don't want you guys to feel overwhelmed or like, oh my gosh, how are we going to report this in a year? So maybe set down some like timeline of when you think you'll actually be able to get the databases up and running so that we can put an effective date in the code. Do you think that's a good idea, Gabe?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah, we definitely want to help instead of hinder. And if you think that the effective date could be, because right now it's effective upon approval. So if you think you might need a little time, you know, let us know. That's in this very last sentence in the whole bill, section 6. This ordinance takes effect upon approval. If you think you want a longer time than that, just let us know. We could say this ordinance takes effect. You fill in the blank.
Because no one in this group wants to hinder you guys or make you overwhelmed. We understand how much you guys have on your plate. We wanted to do this legislation to create a framework, not only so that the department knows what they're doing, so that there's a continuity a continuity between mayoral administrations. And then also for data collection, we wanted to make sure that we were really starting to get that consistently over time. So we understand that it's going to take a while to get to that point where you're able to report on all this. So when you're going through it, kind of keep that in mind and say, look, we think it would be reasonable to meet this requirement, or, you know, those kinds of things, so that we're not, you know, putting any burden or unnecessary stress on you guys as you guys get this department up and running. We really want to be supportive. So please don't feel overwhelmed when you get to that part, because we know it's a lot. It's not going to happen overnight.
Well, you can kind of tell that we're pretty calm people. Him and I, we kind of had the same temperament, same personality. So I don't feel overwhelmed at all. I appreciate the challenge, and these tools are useful because it helps set direction and the pace for us.
Wonderful. Jerry, did you have something to add?
Callie, how do we reach out to you?
You can call my office or email. I just put the email in the chat.
Okay.
And my office number is 808-270-8278. And my cell is 808-495-5649. And I'm reading the box because it's a brand new phone. Nobody called me yet.
Nobody's called.
When you call, I'm going to add you to my contact list.
And my office number is all the same, except it ends in a 9 instead of an 8.
And his office ends in a 6.
Oh, a 6.
Yeah, your office ends in a 6. Your cell
6.
number ends in a, what's your cell number?
I am pulling up right now. Cell phone number 808-495-5907. 495-5907.
How about email? Oh, the email's in the chat. I'll get that there.
Yeah, if you email, I'll shoot you back all my contact info.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, if you two ever feel like the walls are closing in and if you need to get out and see something green and dirty, open invitation to come check out our farm. Kali, I think you were at our farm like 10 or 12 years ago. You came over, you were visiting from Molokai.
Probably. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't look it, but I'm pretty old. But probably.
Yeah, it had to do with Kalo.
Probably with Elton too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely want to get out. I mean, this is really nice for me to dress like this. I'm usually in jeans, mocha key t-shirt, ball cap, and work boots every day. I get to dress pretty nice. But yeah, we'd love to come out. If you want to invite us, please do.
Okay, right on.
We'll take up your invitation.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys all who's, you know, you guys are the last people standing in this meeting. But it's been so good, and I hope everybody learned something and feels supported on both sides. And I'm so excited for this last piece of legislation coming from our group. Our group has put in so much time over the last couple of years to do this. So thank you, Gabe, for, you know, getting that in there, and we really look forward to you guys and your new positions and roles. And thank you everybody for attending the meeting tonight. I will touch base with Lauren and we'll try to get the testimony out as well as the information about the upcoming meetings for Bill 105 for the appointment, and then Bill 79 for the water exemptions as well.
And thank you, Gabe, for initiating all of this and with the department, and I look forward to meeting with you one-on-one next week.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet you, of course, and there's a lot to talk about, a lot to talk about. It's farming's my passion. So thank you all. Thanks for all your hard work. A lot of this work that we're talking about today was started on this group. So, and it goes back. So thank you all. Have a good night.
All right. Aloha.
Aloha.